Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, Spence, let's trip out.
I'm afraid not every human is as smurfy as they should be, Sassy.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
Yeah, certainly. Here we are.
This pizza pie won't pass. Too many calories. Oh, the rest is okay. Natural light! Get it off me! Get it off me!
I don't know the meaning of the word chip.
Documented Geek Day.
I called the witch doctor, he told me what to do. He said, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla bing-bang.
That means play Dr. Mario on Game Boy or NES.
Ting-tang, walla-walla bing-bang. I beat the witch doctor, and this is what he said. He said, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla bing-bang, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah. And then he shrugged my head.
A name you trust.
Friday, looking for the hippest way to start your holiday weekend?
Yes! Yes!
TGIF is right on target.
Okay, mister. Drop my son's underwear.
With Family Matters, Boy Meets World, Step by Step, and Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Plus, it's a countdown to Santa's arrival.
Why? Do find it strangely exhilarating.
On TGIF.
We are back with the Geek Den for the first time in a couple of weeks.
2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks. It's been a weird 2 weeks. Actually, it hasn't been that weird. It's just been one thing after another interrupting this.
Life happens.
We're here with Ernst Harth. Anybody, honestly, you have a very recognizable face for anybody that knows the genre. To be clear, like, I knew who you were because of, like, I mean, I'm a horror nerd from a long way back, but more importantly, I was like Supernatural, like all the different TV spots. I also knew you from that. I mean, granted, that was well after 13 Ghosts, but point of the matter is, you were very recognizable. I was actually surprised to see how recognizable when I was looking at that page.
Well, that's the thing I get time and time again from people who only know me from one or two parts is when they say, "What else have you done?" I say, just go to my IMDb because you'll be blown away. You'll realize that I was with you through your whole childhood, and
what I did really
depending on the age of some people, because I've done just as many family movies. You know, I've done I've worked with Scooby-Doo twice. I've worked with the Muppets. I've worked with I've done the Air Bud movies, the Talking Dog, the Disney movies. I've done 2 Asterix and Obelix animated films, which are probably some of the biggest comic characters in the world outside of the US, funny enough. But so I've had little tastes of pop culture here and there. And when people that's just, you know, the films, and then people look at the TV stuff and they start looking at it all the time. Oh, I remember that. The Haunting Hour. I didn't even know that many people watched The Haunting Hour. And then they go, oh my God.
At least in my opinion, like I watched The Haunting Hour. You were in the most memorable episode to me. Like,
it's all you, Kenny.
No, I mean, so I was watching, I went through your reel. It was a little 3 minutes 40 seconds worth of a reel, and then that part popped up, and I was like, "Holy shit, it was!" And I went and I looked it up, and I was like, "Yep, there he is."
That was a fun episode. Peter DeLuise directed that, and you know, it's fun when you just you go into the audition and you just pick a crazy choice and you go with it and they love it. And then, like the sing-songy stuff, little Jimmy Jeffries, like none of that stuff is in the script. That's just my insanity. And it's fun when the director just lets you play. And that was one of the characters where I got to play. And the amount of people, I had no idea how many people have seen that show. And then, I get emails all the time. Oh my God, all you can eat. You're the ice cream guy. I had no idea. But yeah, that and, having been on the X-Files and then being in the black and white episode that everybody remembers with the Mutado and having one of the memorable lines of "the barn's on fire," and that makes me laugh every time I see it, because what people don't realize is I spent probably half the night in the emergency in the hospital during that shoot, because the scene where everybody comes running into the barn when everyone's trying to hunt down Mutado, and all the city freaks, all the townsfolk, we come crashing into the barn and we're all searching everywhere. Well, in the one wide shot, you see me running around with a lantern, and in the middle of that shot, I tripped, and full force, full 500 pounds of me came crashing down on my knee, and the lantern smashed next to my face, and that was a big cut, and they had to take me out of there, take me to emergency. I was in emergency probably for, like I said, 6 or 7 hours, it seemed. And then I get brought back to set, and I thought, that's it, my big line of the night, they're going to cut it. And I get back to set, and after they had shot all the barn stuff, Chris says, when we get back, he goes, I got a little setup over here in the corner, and he had a bunch of extras left behind, and they ran past camera, and the camera zoomed in on me, and they put the fake fire in the barn behind me, and I got to do my line. So that was what, for me, is like, those are the memories of that episode, sitting and then afterwards, Chris Carter was like my dad. He was like, because I think he felt bad because I busted up my knee and I was in the hospital. So the rest of the night, I remember him and I sitting under an umbrella in the pouring rain, and we're watching a little 5-inch TV, and Party of Five is on, and it was the episode where the one character got lymphoma or Hodgkin's disease, and we're both and Chris. I remember Chris looking at me, he goes, "Don't worry, it's the non-cancerous type," and he's going and getting me leek soup, and we're sitting there in the pouring rain. It's funny when you watch these shows. It's like, that's what I see when I watch the postmodern Prometheus.
Incredibly sweet. Just the fact that it's like, that he kept it, like they figured out a way to keep you and get the shot anyways, but B, like, just let's watch Party of Five, and here, have some soup.
I was just gonna say, it's funny because that episode was so bizarre, because Chris Carter wrote the episode, directed the episode, and being the producer of the show. So the days went for, like, I think my day, that one day at the barn, I think was a 21 and a half hour day for me. And that's me as an actor. The crew's already there when I get there. The crew's already there when I leave. And then the Teamsters are there before the crew gets there. So it's like, I think that was probably a 24-hour day. But when you're when the writer director is the executive producer, nobody's leaving until he's getting what he sees in his head.
That's some people that don't know the end. Like Craig and I guess we have some familiarity with the industry, but it's not in depth at all.
Yeah.
There is, like, you were saying, like, the Teamsters are there setting everything up before the crew gets there, and they are leaving after the crew is done and taking everything down. That is like 100%. Do they get? Please tell me they get overtime daily. It's not like a. It's not.
No, it's like triple, quadruple overtime.
Awesome. I figured it would be something like that, but it is nice to actually hear it confirmed.
Yeah, I remember I did a film for the Farrelly brothers called Say It Isn't So, and I played Mr. Campisi. I was the mental patient who was obsessed with pancakes, and I ended up going on the road with Orlando Jones and Chris Klein as we break him out. I join along for the ride so I can go look for pancakes. I love when characters have nothing to do with the movie, at absolutely nothing to do with the film, I have my own adventure. I'm on my own hero's journey. I have nothing to do with the movie, but they keep cutting to me as I'm this crazy guy, this 500-pound crazy guy in his pajamas and house coat is looking for his pancakes. And I remember we shot one day, and it was like we broke for third meal, which means we've already had lunch and we've already had dinner, and now we're breaking for the third meal. So it's like the middle of the night, and we're into third overtime kind of thing. And I remember the driver is driving me back home. We're like in Squamish, BC, a small town up north, and we're driving back to Vancouver, BC. And the driver says to me, "Oh, I hope you don't mind. When I get tired, I drive better with my glasses off." And I just remember sitting in the back seat thinking, some things you don't need to share, man.
That is awesome. That is also job security. That's what that is. That's a dude who knows.
They have like a little waiver.
I don't need to hear everything, man. You can just do what you got to do and get me home.
Lord, you know what? But saying ain't so. I remember saying that. That's what I'm saying. It's absolutely amazing to me. And I guess it's not that amazing. Like I said, once I started going through, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that episode. I remember that episode. I remember this movie. I've seen it, but okay, yep, got it. And then I started going in and looking at like some of the reels that were posted from like different clips.
Yeah.
In it, which obviously is where I came across. It was actually in your reel on IMDb, the clown. It was from Dead Rising.
Oh yeah, that's the opening of my demo reel.
Here's the thing about my question. Like you got to, in saying so, you got to be on set and your character was wearing pajamas.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining like with the amount of makeup and effects work that has gone into making some of your characters, that was probably way more comfortable than a lot.
Oh yeah. For example, Minor 49er from Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
The bat suit. Yeah. Okay.
That outfit was about a 6.5 hour makeup, about a 2 hours then to get into wardrobe and everything to complete the look. So talking about overtime on that film, every day, by the time I got to set, I was already into overtime and I hadn't even worked yet.
Was it hot? I know that's probably a silly question, but like my thoughts are that couldn't have been comfortable.
Well, so with Minor 49er, the first thing, and that was the first big film that I had done after 13 Ghosts. And after 13 Ghosts, I lost 250 pounds.
Right.
And so then when I get booked on Scooby-Doo 2, the first thing they do is they tell me they're going to build a fat suit. So, you can't win. It's like I take the weight off and then they're going to stuff me up with cotton and put it back on. But
it served well, though. I mean, that's one of my daughter. I mean, she's like, she's 5 years old. Both of the Scooby-Doo and the Monsters Unleashed, those are like two of her favorite movies. Those are her like, I'm going to go lay down and watch a movies. So I think it may have served better than, like, I know that sounds weird, but I guess they got to sculpt what they wanted or what they thought it should look like.
Yeah, and because, everything is supposed to be larger than life. Everything is supposed to be large, especially larger than the actors in the film. So, they're going to try and get as big of actors as they can. But at some point, when you're dealing with the tar monster and the cotton candy blob and all these things, they're like 30 feet high. They're going to then try and make the other characters as big as possible. And at first, they had all the all the monsters that you see in the Coolsville Museum at the beginning of the film. The whole point of the film is them unveiling this new exhibit with all of the monsters. Well, originally, there was about 12 or 13 actors hired to play all of the different monsters that came from those costumes. So there was a Chickenstein's, there was a Redbeard's ghost, there was the clown ghost, there was the Ozark witch woman or whatever, witch doctor. There was like all of these different monsters that I hadn't even heard of before. There was the creeper, was like a big Frankenstein.
Right.
So, and then there was Minor 49er and there was the other ones. And so we went through probably 2 or 3 makeup and camera tests where they had us put the different looks that they had at that point, and we'd go in front of the camera and do like a fake backdrop and everything, try to get a feel for something from like a scene from the film, and then have us act it out and get as visual and as animated as possible to bring life to the makeup and what have you. And what a lot of actors that get hired for this stuff is the mistake they make is they act like they normally would act in a scene. The problem is when you're wearing 3 inches of latex and makeup, you get lost in the makeup. So everything comes across as flat. So like if you're happy, you don't just smile. Everything has to be exaggerated, right? And all of this time, and you got to be able to, and when you've done as many prosthetics that I've done, it's like another skill on your resume is, prosthetic acting and learning to emote through the makeup. So I learned early on. So as the different makeup tests were going, there was like people were not getting great reviews because they weren't necessarily selling the makeup. And a lot of times, and I've learned this having worked with so many different makeup houses, is they're never 100% sold on an idea. A lot of the department heads and a lot of the big wigs in the studio, they never know exactly what they want until they see it. And no matter how much they describe a look to the studio guys, and they show them pictures and everything, they still don't get it until they see it in front of them. And then if the actor isn't really selling the character through the makeup, then they're only seeing not a great performance, and then the makeup doesn't come across as great. So because I know this, I just kept going for it, and I kept getting, we'd go to the next thing, and all of a sudden there's 5 less monsters, and we go to the next test, and there was another, and they changed my look 3 or 4 times. And as they would go to the next round, it became a matter of it's going to cost too much, or the practical was too much on this. And one by one, it's like they kept losing practical effects makeups in favor for visual effects makeups, because the big thing what people don't realize is with visual effects, you don't even have to create the monster until after the film is finished. You don't even have to know what the thing's going to look like. You just need a tennis ball on screen and everybody reacting to it. They'll draw it later when they figure it out. But if you're going to if you do practical effect makeup, you're stuck with whatever you put on screen. And that people always go, I want more practical effects instead of more visual effects. Well, I think a lot of people want more practical effects. The problem is the studios, so many times the scripts are still being written while they're shooting, and let's just shoot the actors. We'll figure out that stuff later.
Which is like for my stuff that I've read, and honestly, just like so you're thinking about the studio heads not really knowing what they want until like, okay, so I'm an illustrator, I work on commission, I get that wholeheartedly. Craig's a writer, same sort of situation. Like there's like go interview. Like, do you have what would you like me to ask? I mean, there's like any number of things. A little bit of direction would help, but there never is any.
You're the writer, write about it, write something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
exactly.
And then, of course, when you get the product done, they're like, no, not that.
Yeah, okay. and so to get to my point was, so they kept breaking down these characters. They kept adding more visual effects characters, and one by one, the actors who had been hired to play all these ghosts, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, by the way, remember how you were going to be working this summer? Yeah, you're not going to be working this summer. And they'd be like, well, the Redbeard's ghost, he breathes fire, but we really like that gag, but we're not going to go forward with Redbeard's ghost. Well, why don't we make Minor 49er breathe fire? But that doesn't make any sense. Why would he breathe fire? Because we like the gag. So he's going to breathe fire. So they just kept throwing stuff at me while every other guy was getting tossed aside because they either went with visual effects or they didn't like the look. And a big part of it was there was going to be big makeup studio, effects studios, shops in LA that were going to be doing it. And then it got to the point where WCT, Bill Terzakis' studio in Vancouver, was the guy who did the makeup for Freddy versus Jason and created the House of the Dead. And he did a lot of, he's no longer with us, sadly, but he ended up getting all of the practical makeup, and all of the stuff that Steve Johnson's studio had done got put aside, like the Creeper and the Red Beard's Ghost and all those things. So when it finally came time for me, they built the fat suit, but underneath the fat suit, what they did was talking about it being hot. When the one thing that was designed when they had the Gulf War in Kuwait, the soldiers had these cool suits that they wore underneath, and it was like veins of ice cold ice water that would run throughout your body, and that would keep you cool while you're in 150-degree weather or in the middle of the desert, whatever. So I had one of those cool suits underneath, which was then about a 3-inch fat suit, and then over top of that, I had a smoke machine in my pants. And then the pants had fiber optic lights in it, which would make me look like twinkly in the once they added the visual effects to it, it gave like a twinkle effect. And then, so then there was the shirt, then there was the fake arms, the whole 6-piece head, the wig, the makeup, the teeth on both sides. Then I had contacts that were like the size of silver dollars that went over my entire eyeball. So by the end of it, my wife, who was on set with me most of the time, she was like my assistant because I couldn't really do anything once I was in full makeup. Before I'd go to set, she would come up to me and she would look straight into my eyes. She'd look in the pinhole in my eye, in my contacts, because that's all that was left of her husband. So she would look in the pinhole and she'd go, "Okay, there's my husband. Have fun." And then she'd like push me off the set kind of thing. And so there's some funny pictures on my Facebook page of her and I kissing, and I'm dressed up as Minor 49er, and my mother-in-law has a photo of me as Minor 49er looking all romantic next to my wife. And my mother-in-law tells people when they come over, that's my daughter and my son-in-law. But I don't think she ever tells them that that's my son-in-law as Minor 49er. So as far as they're concerned, her daughter is married to some crazy ass minor.
Back to that. I was going through some weird stuff.
Yeah, so that would work out to about 8 hours. So if they started at 7 a.m, I'd show up about 2 a.m. Nobody would be there. To be some half asleep PA there to open the gate to let me in, and I go to the makeup trailer, and me and the makeup guy would start putting the stuff on. But halfway through the makeup, they'd let me go have something breakfast, go back to the makeup trailer, put the rest of the stuff on, go to the wardrobe, put the rest of the wardrobe. Now I've worked my 8-hour day. Now I go to the studio, I walk in, now I work 12 hours, and then I go back, and then it takes another 2 hours to get out of everything. And there was 1 week where we did the whole 5 days in a week. And let me tell you, when you have 2.5 hour turnaround where they send you off with a driver, and in 2.5 hours another driver comes and picks you up, you think to yourself, well, what's the point? Why can't I just sleep in my trailer on set? And then you find out from production that, well, there has to be an end. There needs to be a cutoff.
They must end.
So, because if you stay in your trailer, you haven't left set, basically. So they just have to keep paying you. So they have to like basically go home, come back, start the clock again, kind of thing. And so let's just say it was a good show, because from the very first concept and makeup meeting, where they were basically, I was standing up against paper and having them draw my body, and all from that very first meeting to my last day on second unit was 7 months. Wow. So I wasn't working every day like crew members, but still, as an actor, whenever you get to work on something off and on for 7 months,
steady and solid, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Let's just say my wife calls her wedding ring her Scooby-Doo ring.
Oh, that's perfectly. That is understandable. That is also awesome, by the way. That I see. This is one of those learning something new kind of situations. I guess it makes sense that there would have been some type of language in a contract dictating that you had to leave the set and make the day in, which is funny because it's almost like a video game boss leveling sort of thing. Like you have
a lot of people.
the door.
A lot of people that I talk to especially people that aren't in the industry, they don't really have a concept that it's no different than a factory job. It's no different than going in and punching your clock and punching your card at the end of the day, punching your card and going home. You have your movie stars, but for everybody else on the crew and everybody else, all the actors, everyone else, it's just another factory job. You're going in, you're putting on your uniform, you're doing your job, and then you're going home. It's just that once in a while you get to go to some pretty good parties.
Yeah.
And once in a while you get to speak to guys like you,
Another question about that. So very clear. I mean, you've worked with a lot of people, especially anybody that likes the genre. Like there are several people you've worked with. This is probably one of the weirder questions, or maybe not. I don't know. Supernatural fans are pretty hardcore.
Yeah, they are.
Was it fun? I don't know why I get the impression in everything I see that dude in that's actually just a lot of him.
Who's that?
Jim Beavers.
Yeah.
I don't know how much is acting and how much is just him. I swear every character is just that guy.
Well, let's just say I felt like an idiot.
Surprisingly, that answers my question very well.
Because, the whole thing with his character and my character and him reciting that famous line from, I think it was Animal House, about you can't go through life drunk and fat and stupid or whatever.
Drunk and stupid.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for that line, because he exercised me. He saved my meat suit, because the two boys, if it was up to them, they would have just killed me, because that's their thing. It's more dramatic to kill the demons than it is to save them, so they're always the ones that are burying the bodies or throwing the salt and all that stuff. Jim, a lot more than the other guys, would actually go through the whole spell and draw the thing on the ceiling and everything. So I remember a couple of years ago, I did a read through for a script that was in development by a filmmaker friend of mine, and they had put together basically like a fake cast. Like, if I was going to make this movie today, who would I want?
Right.
Because they wanted to do a read through of the script. And Jim Beaver was one of the actors. That it was him and Adrienne Barbeau and a bunch of names that I recognize, and me. And when we were going around on the Zoom meeting around the circle and everyone was introducing themselves, I just had to say, oh, and by the way, I just wanted to thank you for exercising me, because otherwise I wouldn't be here today. And he had this look on his face like he had no clue what I was talking about, because once again, to him, it's just another factory job. He went in, did his job, and went home. And now I'm talking about something that he did years ago.
He was on like 10. That was like 10 years of his life too.
I think I was in season 3, and they did what, 15 or something?
15, yeah. I mean, and I think Bobby, the character, showed up all the way towards the end. I mean,
he died like 10 years in, and then
he was dead forever, and he just kept popping on the shit. He was a ghost for like 2 years.
That's why for 12 years I'm at home going, come on, bring me back.
Seriously, check back in with my meat soup.
My meat suit is ready. I'm ready. Let's do this. There was no reason why they couldn't bring me back. They brought back other Vancouver actors from town, local actors. They brought them back from multiple episodes. I mean, geez, John DeSantis, who played Juggernaut in 13 Ghosts, he was in 3 or 4 different episodes of Supernatural as different characters.
I was going to ask about that too. I mean, you're once again IMDb 6'6", which is like that's an overwhelming height presence for the most part, especially on film. Like that comes across fucking massive.
Well, especially when the actors you're working with are 5'2".
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, like, literally the comparison is just obscene. You ended up like, I know that I think it's once again IMDb, I believe, mentions that you started off as a professional wrestler.
Yeah. Well, just like it says that John DeSantis gained 20 pounds of muscle in 3 weeks or 16 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever the hell, which is nonsense, because they built his makeup onto a diver suit and he just put it on every morning. So, for whoever added that, I always find that funny. It's like these people who they though Juggernaut's character had all these big muscles and
I mean, it looked great on camera.
Yeah, and John DeSantis doesn't have big muscles like that, so he must have just went crazy with. He put on his diver's suit every morning. But besides that, when I was doing 13 Sadism So, and I had a meeting with the publicist, and I told him that I had done some work. I was basically, when I was a teenager, there was a small wrestling league that would come through town, like back when they had the territories, and they had all the different, and there was a small territory in Ontario, and there was like the Canadian Wild Man, and there was the Canadian Wild Man was who was in the car with Adrian Adonis when they died in their car accident. So, it's a small world. But so I was basically helping. I was like one of the ring boys. I was like helping set up the ring and doing this. And I was telling him that I had done wrestling in school, and if I was ever going to get the call to go up into the ring, I had my character built and ready to go. And he says, "What character is that?" And I said, "I already have it picked." And you remember on Sadism So, I was probably 550 pounds, 6'6". So I'm like, I'm a globe. And I said to him, the perfect character, my character's name would be the Bible Thumper, and he would have a mohawk from the back and then a mohawk from ear to ear so that it would look like a cross, and he would wear a black robe, and he would wear a white collar, and he would have a little New Testament, and when he would pin a guy, he would take out his New Testament and shove it down the guy's throat, and he'd be called the Bible Thumper. And he thought this. I still say to this day, that's the best freaking wrestling character that anybody could come up with, and I still haven't seen anybody do it.
And that would have absolutely spurred on viewership. I promise that.
And especially today with the Christo-fascist.
There would have been protests nonstop. You would have had more people showing up just to be like, "We don't want to watch this after buying it." You know what I mean?
I still say it would have been the best character if I'd ever gotten a chance. And to the point where I mentioned this story on a commercial that I had done back in '94. And I told this story about this character to the director. And so when I made my entrance into this commercial, this cheese commercial, and it's like at a picnic. And so you got all these people playing cheese factory employees at this company picnic. And then I come barging into the picnic with this basket of cheese. But what the director, when he heard me telling this story about the Bible Thumper, he goes, "Oh, I got to see this. Okay, when I yell action, I want you to enter the picnic as the Bible Thumper." Now, of course, you don't hear this in the commercial, but the reaction of all the actors and extras on this picnic set as employees of a cheese factory. And then I go, "Oh, yeah, the Bible Thumper." And I come rushing in with this big basket.
That's the most. All right, so I am not. All right, Craig and one of our other guys that's from down here are way more into wrestling than I am. I'm actually, for me, it was the late '80s were the heyday for wrestling for me, right? So
me too. So I told this story to the publicist who was interviewing me for publicity for Sadism So. And so then when the press kit came out, he refers to me as former professional wrestler Bible Thumper. And that's all it took. From that point on, that story got out there. And then from then on, I was a professional wrestler. And one day I turn on IMDb, and all of a sudden I'm a professional wrestler. So
it is part of the package that is you now.
It looks better for me. I remember telling Chris Carter on X-Files, telling him about my character, the Bible Thumper, and getting him so excited about the Bible Thumper. Then all of a sudden one day I get a phone call. When you're like, you've just left your house and you've closed the door and you're just about to turn around to leave, and the phone rings, and you can hear the phone ringing. And I'm thinking, should I just go to see my movie because I was on the way to go to the theater, or should I go back in the house and answer the phone? And I went, God, fine, I'll answer the phone. So I go back in the house and I pick up the phone and I hear, "Hello, Ernst?" I go, "Yeah, Chris." Now I'm going through the Rolodex in my brain of every Chris that I know.
A lot of Chris's.
And before I get a chance to say anything, I hear Carter. Oh, hey, Chris Carter. Hey, how you doing? What's up? He goes, you doing anything next week? I said, no. He goes, you want to come down and do an episode? I said, sure. He goes, well, grab a cab, come on down to the North Shore Studios and come up to my office and we'll have a talk. So I go back in the house and I get changed. I put on some nice pants, nice shirt, and I get in a cab and I go off to the studio. I go up to his office and he says, okay, so we're doing this episode and we need these guys. They're like MMA fighters. They're like big fighters. But because this is Harsh Realm, it's a new show I'm doing, and the fighters don't actually fight. They get digitized into little zip files, and they come into the studio. They come into the arena with these cages, and they get the crowd worked up, and then they put the cage down, and there's like an octagon, but it's basically like 6 feet square. And it's like child size, and they put the cages down, and I'm going to pop the lid to the cages, and the cages will fly open, and the 2 little digitized versions of you and the other zip fighter are going to come out, and they're going to wrestle, and you guys are going to be cheering on yourselves. And does that sound like something you wouldn't mind doing? I remember you telling me about the Bible thumper and everything, so I know you got that in you. And I was still pretty big at this time. I said, sure, okay. And remember, I'm sitting there, I got nice rugby pants on, nice shirt and everything. And he says, well, go downstairs. Lou Bolo, the stunt coordinator, I'll have him meet you. There's a chunk of grass out there in the middle of the parking lot. Why don't you and Larry Lamb, the stunt guy who's playing the other guy, why don't you guys go out there and rehearse and basically practice and work out a wrestling routine? So now there's me in my dress pants and my nice shirt out there for 2.5 hours doing his fake wrestling routine on the grass. And then I had to go for a wardrobe fitting because it turns out I'm on set the next morning, because what I didn't know was they'd already hired somebody. They'd already been rehearsing this thing for like a week. And then Chris finally saw who they hired and went, yeah, he's not big enough. I was thinking like a really big guy versus a small little martial arts guy. So that's when he called me, and boom, the next day I'm on set. And that was a great show. I don't know, do you remember Harsh Realm? Based on a comic series?
Most of ours, when I was traveling through the history that is your career at this point, it was honestly, there was very little that I did not recognize. Like, I had to go and look up the episode numbers. I had to go, like, I clicked on each one because I was running through YouTube trying to figure out who you were in each thing, which is when I noticed the clown thing, right? Which I figure it was unfortunate. It was not even unfortunate. It actually worked out pretty well because from my standpoint, a character actor is in the best position they can be in for these types of things because you always have something available. They need a 6'6", 500-pound dude. They have to fucking have that.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to have that set up. And it's like there was this weird anti-clown thing. I say like it popped up in the 90s. Let's be fair. Clowns have always been creepy. The best way to make them creepier is to take 6'6", 500 pounds worth of dude and put them in fucking like scary makeup.
Yeah.
And make him a clown and then have him die and turn into a zombie. So now not only is he a clown, he's also a zombie. And
like 3 phobias. 3 phobias.
And then let's throw some backstory in there. And he has this creepy van that has like duct tape and stuff in there. So who knows what he's doing to the kids at the parties or so, it's like he's not a good guy. So the fact that I lose my head in that film is not, I lose my head. My Virginia Madsen ripped my head off. So, it could be worse, No,
that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Now, I was a clown there. Then I was a clown in an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Mm-hmm. And when they decided to bring that series back, and they did like a 3-episode, a special 3-episode limited run before they brought it back as an episode.
It wasn't bad. By the way, as far as our revival goes, that was pretty good.
Pretty good.
So I got to be a clown there, and because I already had the big mustache and they didn't want to shave it, they decided they dyed my hair black and dyed my sideburns. I basically look like an Elvis ghost almost in some weird ways.
At least I didn't go with the Cesar Romero thing and just like white.
And the guy who plays the ghost, the guy. I'm with a little person who's a ghost, a clown. I'm scary clown number 2 for those that like credit names, and scary clown number 1 is the little kid from. Remember the little chess playing kid from the X-Files? There was that big episode where they're in a stadium and he's playing. He was the guy who plays the other clown next to me in the X-Files. It's like the world, everything is tied. Like I did an episode of Haters Back Off with that weird Miranda Sings character that's on YouTube. And I play the manager of a taco restaurant. And the kid who's in the scene with me, the teenager who's actually the cashier, is the little boy who's the son in Trick or Treat, who's being taught by his father how to carve the fat kid's face up. So it's like this weird, bizarre, incestual world that I live in.
Back to the point that there's always something available for you. There is. That's what I mean. It's like I said. I mean, there are so many. All right, from an acting standpoint, right? Why am I forgetting his name? This sucks. Played the dad in Pretty in Pink.
Oh, I don't know if I ever saw that.
Okay, so Pretty in Pink. He was also in Aliens or Alien, the original. He's the one that got killed in the hangar with all the chains and everything. That's when he first showed up. Dick something.
I can't.
No, wait, that's not. Point of the matter is, he's a character actor. Him and the guy. Yeah. I'm forgetting all kinds of names. By the way, I should mention at this point for anybody that comes across this, I'm not normally this forgetful, but I have a really nasty cold, so this is Robitussin and whiskey.
And whatever medicine is in your hand there.
Well, yeah, no, that should have been. Okay, so in Gremlins, showed up in Gremlins 2, even though he died in part 1 in the snowplow.
Yeah.
You know the guy I'm talking about.
I know him. I just can't remember his name at all.
This drives me insane. Here, the point of the matter is they're all character actors, and they have pages that stretch for miles because they are the go-to guy for that part. The sad thing is, it's like nobody knows who.
Yeah, you can have someone who's got 500 credits, and you're like, who is that? It's the guy from.
Yeah, exactly. Geez, I got to look up the Pretty in Pink thing.
Yeah, drive you crazy. But no, it's
driving me crazy because he's a great actor. He was in Repo Man.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name either.
But the thing that I get a lot for a guy my size is when people always say, oh, "I didn't know you were in that," because I become the character. You know, you have personality actors like Tom Cruise, who's always Tom Cruise, and you know Tom Cruise when you see Tom Cruise, and then. For me, I'm the character. Yeah, the run. As soon as you see the run,
he's going to
run. But with me, you know, I'm either under makeup or, you know, the character. There's something about the character. It's never just me playing me.
Which is like you mentioned, Trick or Treat. Right? Okay, so like that's honestly, it's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yes.
It really is. There's not.
Did you see? Did you see the box set that the 4K?
Yeah, I did.
Box set that's coming out?
I haven't seen it yet.
I put a thing up on my page. It's
I'll look it up. Big. I mean, I guarantee you I will look it up.
It's pretty awesome.
Was like a shining beacon of happy horror in a time where like nothing good was coming. Which
I remember when I auditioned for that. It's bizarre to even say that I auditioned for it because it's basically I'm sitting there dressed up as a baby. But the fact is, I auditioned for it, and I remember going into the room for Michael Dougherty, the guy who wrote and directed it, and I start taking my pants and my shirt off and everything, and I'm actually sitting in the room in my underwear. And I remember the casting director going, Ernst, you don't have to strip out. You don't have to take your clothes off for this.
I'm playing a baby. I will.
I said, I'm playing a baby. He's got to see what I look like as a baby. And I don't know if it was the commitment in the audition or whatever. But when I did finally get the role, I said, I'm going to milk this because these people have, you know, there may be somebody at Warner Brothers that knows that I'm the great child and remembers that.
Right.
But if they don't, I'm going to make everyone remember because I was the great child. Now I'm the giant baby. They're both both Warner Brothers films. They're both horror films. I'm going to create my own Easter egg. And I was, as I'm sitting there on set, I had to smile, and even if it wasn't on my face, it was in my head. I was like, I'm the giant baby, but I'm also the great child. I'm gonna be a meme. I'm gonna be a trivia note. And it's, I mean, anyone who knows horror, they go, hey, that's the great child.
Oh, absolutely.
Giant baby, great. Oh, I get it. That's a joke. And the fact that I'm Anna Paquin's blind date, and that just made it even funnier, because I just remember reading the script when I had the audition, and she's on the phone with her sister, and she goes, is he young? And then they cut to me with the big thumbs up. Can't get any younger than a baby.
Out of curiosity, by the way, I mean, 13 Ghosts, I would imagine you get asked about this a lot.
Uh-huh.
If not even that specific question, just about the movie in general. I would assume you do.
Yes.
So when I saw it originally, I saw it in theaters, and then I worked at Borders at the time. I mean, I think I was like 19, 20, somewhere in there. The DVD came out, and I bought it immediately. All the special features were on it. How much of the backstory did you know? Because there was that whole thing where you could go through and you could click on the individual items.
Yeah, and it was the F. Murray Abraham doing the Ghost Files,
which was awesome.
The backstory.
It really was. Like, it was a great addition.
They could have added that entire thing to the movie.
Yeah,
the movie would have been that much better.
It would have been. Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the backstories were great.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny thing: if you listen to the commentary of 13 Ghosts, they'll give you what the backstories of all the individual ghosts were when we were shooting it. Then, if you go watch the Ghost Files with F. Murray Abraham, you'll hear the backstories that the marketing department came up with after the fact. And it's funny because they have different names for they're calling me Big Baby, and now I'm the great child. It's like everything is different. Like, for example, I've got a stack of scripts in storage. I probably must have, 10 different versions of 13 Ghosts. I have a version written by James Gunn. I have it's like there were so many different ghost writers and so many different cleanup writers that were brought on. So I've got a stack of different. When I first auditioned for that, I was a ghost called Couch Potato, and I basically sitting on a couch, and I've got rats crawling under my shirt. My shirt is going like this, and I got rats coming out of my eye sockets and stuff. And then they created a character that I was like into BDSM, and I was like dressed in leathers, and I had like a little dominatrix woman that was hanging off of me, and I basically like fell on her and killed her, kind of thing. And wow. And that somehow transformed into the little woman that was hanging off of me as the dominatrix became my mother, and I became a baby, to the point. This is what I'm getting at. Let me just grab something here. Where is it? There. Here it is. You remember the Black Zodiac, the book that they have in the movie? And he's looking through it, and there's all the different things. Well, I've got these postcards that the studio gave me back when we were promoting the movie. And when you look at this, I'm sorry, but it, to me, looks like a guy who's into BDSM, and that's the little dominatrix woman that's attached to me. Yeah. And it's like, because this stuff is created so far in pre-production, I think these drawings were created on that version of the script. So by the time it got to me being a baby and my mommy, well, we already got all this shit created. What do we do? Well, just keep that. Nobody's going to know the difference.
So, I would say that makes a lot of sense, though, because like even if you looked at I don't specifically remember it, but if you look at the hammer, the actual ghost, the hammer, but you look at how he shows up the black, that's a little different. So I mean, there's little twists to all of it.
Yeah, like
I would say or the ruin. What was his name again?
Which one? What?
The ghost that ended up burning up in his car had the baseball bat.
Oh, the
something prince, not the Torn Princess.
The Torn Prince.
Was it the Torn Prince?
Yes.
Okay, thank God. I feel better about that. He actually looked about the same in the Zodiac. So did the torso. But then again, what are you going to do with the torso, right?
Yeah. I mean, I still blows me away that so they had an actor with no legs, and he had basically a black ski mask that he wore over his head that basically blacked out his head, and then he would run around on his arms on set, and then they got rid of his head and made him just the torso. But it's one thing to be accepting of everyone's different and everybody has their thing, but it takes you a bit to get used to a guy running around on his arms.
I think that's fair. Like, that's fair. Like, I mean, I figure. Okay, so in Poltergeist 2,
right?
Poltergeist 2, I forgot the stuntman's name. He was actually the same guy that played E.T.
Okay.
He was the worm that Craig T. Nelson throws up.
Geez.
Missing legs below the hips, and I feel like an arm. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it was the same kid who played E.T. because of the E.T. suit being whatever it was. I cannot imagine, and once again, no disparity here. It's got to be a different kind of environment wherein, like, how do you react to that? I don't know how I would react to it. I feel like I'm a relatively enlightened person, but I'm not sure that I would be like everything's normal.
Yeah.
Well, I felt bad for the woman Lori who played my mother. She was older than everyone else. She was already in her 50s. Everyone else was much younger. So she has glaucoma in one eye. So she has this milky cloud on her one eye. So for her entire life, that for however long that she's had this problem with her eye, people don't say anything about it. And now all of a sudden you're on a film and everyone thinks it's special effects makeup and you're wearing contacts. So now you have people all day going, "Oh, awesome. Look at your eye. Oh, that's great. I like what they did with your eye."
Did you see American Horror Story?
Yes.
Okay, so the first season, I forgot what her name is. I love her and everything I've seen her in, but the maid. Heterochromia. Yeah?
Yes.
The actress has heterochromia.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the same thing. Like, legitimately, like, it has got to be the exact same thing. Like, when she shows up for a call, or even if she shows up in anything, if you are not familiar with the fact that is something that is in everything she's in, you would immediately just be like, that's a weird choice for makeup, and it looks cool and it stands out.
Yeah. So and I always thought it was funny because every one of the ghosts in 13 Ghosts is like this crazy whacked out makeup. And I basically look like me. I've got two tiny little prosthetic pieces that go over my eyebrows because I've been doing this long enough. I know that if I shave these off, there's no guarantee they're coming back like this.
Not like that,
so
not at all.
I told them I'm not shaving these off. So then they covered them off. They covered them up, right? That's the only makeup everything else is just me. I don't even have contacts in. All the other monsters have contacts. I just have my own eyes, and I just did this a lot. And the Steve Beck, the director, gave me the best direction. He said, "I want you to scream bloody murder, but I never want you to open your mouth. So if you watch the film and you listen, what you'll hear is." And it's just this creepy baby crying, weird screaming kind of sound that you don't know what you're hearing.
God,
and that's what you're hearing.
Times I'm learning new things about it, and it makes me happy.
Well, yeah, you want to know new things. That's what people always say. What was the house like? Well, first of all, the house was
multiple sets.
Well, no, the house was built. It was in a special effects studio soundstage. Really? But it was like 2,500 panes of glass. It was like, tons of steel. It took them like 2 months to build this thing. It was the gears worked. The things went up and down. What you saw actually was a working set. All of the glass, all of the engravings, all of the stuff. I mean, it was such an amazing set. The whole Shogun suit with the swords, and I mean, there was the production design. If it wasn't a horror movie, it would have been nominated for an Oscar for production design because
I recall that like when. Okay, so back to the point, like when I went to see 13 Ghosts, I saw it in theater, DVD. It was a big moment for me. But I've been a horror fan since I was like 5. I mean, like Amityville Horror was my introduction to laser discs.
I still got my stack. I'm so old that I've got laser discs with me on them,
which is awesome. That's awesome. Like the very ideal. I mean, it is. It is the coolest fucking thing in the world. And I mean, I guess it's now considered like a retro media, which I mean, of course it is. Like, why wouldn't it be? Let's be fair. It's not like it was the most brilliant thing in the world, but it was definitely cool when somebody was like, "Hey, it's a record that plays a movie."
It was analog versus nothing was compressed, so that's why it was so big.
Shit, I've got the original. I still have the VHS copies of the original 3 Star Wars pre-molestation.
Yeah.
Like they are 100% still the original version that came out in theaters, and you can't find it on DVD. You cannot find it unless you happen to know somebody who has it, and that is on VHS. I don't even have a VCR, but I kept those movies. So I was like, one day I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna watch them again and be like, God, it was better.
Yeah.
Either way, back to 13 Ghosts. So, 13 Ghosts being what it was to me at a time when, once again, when it came out in theaters, there was not a lot of horror stuff outside of the big, the big slasher shit going on.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big fucking slasher enthusiast. But 13 Ghosts, even after it's and House on Haunted Hill too, the remake, Jeffrey Rush, right?
Yeah,
those movies gave me hope for what was about to come.
Yeah,
and that was when they decided to rebrand the Dark Castle logo and the Dark Castle name, and they started remaking all of those William Castle films with the House on Haunted and the Haunting and the 13 Ghosts, and then they did the Ghost Ship, and which has
Ghost Ship was great.
The opening scene of that when you don't realize that wire just and
point too.
I think Gothica was a Dark Castle one that came after that as well.
Yeah.
That would have been coming up towards. I don't know if it was the end. The end isn't right because Dark Castle still exists, right? They're still producing films.
I think, but I think they've moved beyond William Castle stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, but there was a moment where they were like, well, fuck it. We have all these things written. Why don't we just redo them with modern technology? Which, by the way, you were mentioning earlier, it's like when studios see a film, they're like, we can do this with practical effects, or we can just put everybody in a green jumpsuit, fix it later. And it's the speed with which they want to get it out and get it done.
Yeah.
I see that happening. But like your career, starting with the commercial that you posted on Facebook today, starting there and forward, you were there for the transition.
Yeah. And I'm now at the point where I've lost stuff to visual effects. I got hired to be one of the main monsters on Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters, the Percy Jackson sequel. And I was supposed to be this big monster, one of the main monsters who was named Boar Man. He was like half human warrior, half killer boar. And so I had this big animatronic boar head and teeth and everything. And there were other characters who, one of the guys from X-Men, Cudmore, he played a character, was like half lion and half scorpion. And it was all practical effects makeup. And one of the characters, Agrius, was like a 8-foot tall bear, half human kind of thing. And this was all practical effects. These were all, that was like a thousands and thousands of dollars, that bear alone. And all of these, we were all cut out, and they ended up going visual effects with all the monsters. And thank God for pay or play contracts, play or pay or whatever they call it, because
that was that, but it still seems sad. I guess because I mean the thing is, Craig and I have talked about this on multiple occasions. We've had guests that have talked about it. There's a difference between After Effects, like polishing off a movie, and just straight replacing it all. And there's not a horror fan I know, not a single one, and not even a fantasy fan, not a sci-fi fan, that isn't happier with a practical effect. I mean, Yoda was a fucking puppet. He was a Muppet. He's Kermit's cousin, and we love it.
Yeah. You know, the thing that I've always said with 13 Ghosts especially, one of the reasons that makes it so powerful is because the monsters are there. The people that they're, you know, when Matthew Lillard comes around the corner and sees a 500-pound, 6'6" guy with a bloody axe and puke running down him, he's seeing that. There's no acting involved. You know, he's not having to look at a tennis ball on the end of a stick and act to that. You know, and you know, I've always said, especially when you're looking at visual effects in films, there's something about when you're looking at another actor, it's like their soul is reflecting in your eyes, kind of thing. There's like you can tell when someone's looking at another human being versus something that's not there. There's a deadness in their eyes.
Well, it's like the Ian McKellen story from The Hobbit, right? His whole thing about, I mean, he broke down on set. This man is a professional. He's been doing this shit for 50 fucking years.
Yeah.
Solid actor, nominated for multiple awards, literally was incredible in the trilogy. He's amazing. And he breaks down on a set and literally says, I can't do this. This is not why I became an actor.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, I guess it literally is looking at another person. Like, even if you have somebody in, I would imagine, mostly green get up, as long as there's something there to work from.
Yeah. Well, like on Scooby-Doo too, Scooby-Doo wasn't there, but Neil Fanning was on set. And in every scene that Scooby-Doo was in, at least we had the voice of Scooby-Doo in there, because he was standing next to Video Village with a microphone doing his lines. Now, I'm the adult who, you know, in the middle of a scene, you know, excuse me, cut. Why is Minor 49er looking over there? And then you're like, oh, Ernst is looking at the speaker because that's where the voice is coming from.
Yeah, but how can you?
I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be looking at this empty space over here.
That's the thing, though. Like, if you look at, let's take a movie that I guarantee all of us love, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Roger Rabbit's voice. That guy was literally there, dressed in a Roger Rabbit suit on set, acting it out on the side for Bob Hoskins to fucking know what was coming.
Yeah, and that like Andy Serkis. You know, the fact that he hasn't been nominated, the fact that, you know, they've drawn over him, does not take away from his performances in the different films. He has not gotten the credit for his acting. You know, they always say he's such a good motion capture actor. No, you're an actor first.
Yeah, and that guy can literally. I guess, like, is it possible to be typecast into a position as opposed to a role? Like, he's not typecast into a role. He can play multiple roles, but he has been typecast into mocap suits.
Yeah.
Like, it's immediately, they're like, this guy's not going to appear for real. We're going to do it later in post. But we need somebody that can act it out.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you, like on Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, a friend of mine, Scott McNeil, who was the evil masked figure, the guy in the black leathers up on the roof and everything. He's one of the busiest voice actors in the world. He's done characters and everything for the last 30 years. He's one of those guys that does like 10 characters on a show. And, you know, you'll be watching the show for 25 minutes and not realize that he's been acting with himself for 20 of those 25 minutes. So he was cast on Scooby-Doo 2, and he was the masked figure. So they'd have him on set, and he's doing the voice that you hear in the film. He's doing it on set, and he's in his leathers, and he's got the big mask on, and the puppeteers are moving the lips and stuff on his mask and his eyes and everything. But he's there, and he's in behind it, and he's doing the voice. Well, come to find out for him that he assumed that he was that character, and he was going to be the voice of that character. It turns out that they just hired him to do the thing on set. And he's like, well, when do I record my voice? No, we're going to hire someone to do that. No, I'm a voice. He basically had to win the role even after he played the role to
that's how David
voice in the film. you know,
Like,
because they probably were going to hire a voice actor. They just assumed that he was probably just some guy coming in to play the part on set.
Which is, I mean, not to keep going back to Star Wars, but it's my base for understanding this. I would imagine that's how David Bruce felt, especially with, like, you know, like he thought he was.
And he had to learn all the lines, and he had to perform everything, and he did everything on set.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, they gave us the most iconic, you know, bad guy in for 20 straight years. Darth Vader was the ultimate bad guy. That's a hell of an accomplishment.
Well, even what's his name there, Mayhew. He did all his lines. You've seen that. Everyone has seen.
Yeah, exactly.
You've seen the scenes where you hear this British voice coming out of this thing, and you're like, "That's what film is this?" I don't remember seeing this.
He's a lot classier than I expected with the wars.
And then you see the film, and it's like all the dialogue I learned and all the dialogue I recited on set, and you replaced it with, "Oh."
Yeah, but you're saying something.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's saying something, you just don't understand it. He's saying what you were saying. But no, and that's the for me, I like the characters where you don't have to talk, you know, where you have to sell the character without voice. You know, I've done a lot of characters like I did a movie called Voyage of the Unicorn, which was a really beautiful fantasy film, and I played an ogre, and I don't have any lines in that. So and then on top of that, I've got all the makeup on. So it's like you're having to express through the makeup, but also without dialogue. So you're having to really, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, plus you got the prosthetics, you have to really go for it because they don't move, right? Like you have to.
And you know, it's I like playing those roles, but now that I'm in my 50s, I always say to my wife, I go, why am I not getting those kind of parts anymore? And she's just, because there's now people 30 years younger you that are willing to do those parts. They don't need to get you to do them anymore. But what we were saying about the seeing the reflection of another person's soul in your eyes and all that stuff, that the lack of that is what has been the hardest for me since COVID, because we haven't went back to auditions. We haven't went back to going into the room, going down and sitting in a waiting room and getting called in and going into a room, and there's the director and the casting director, and you get to meet them and talk with them, and you get to create a personal relationship in the room, and all of that has been lost. And that was what I felt was my strongest thing, was, you know, my presence. When I walk in the room, you're getting all 6'6", all whatever pounds, and you're getting the presence walking in the room. Now, all you're getting is what you're seeing here is just a head in a box.
Which, don't get me wrong, I feel like I'm getting to know you, but it is definitely not the same.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same.
Especially when after, 20 years of learning my craft to the point where every audition I duck when I come in the room, even if the door is 7 inches above my head, I still
make sure to draw attention. That makes sense. That's it.
It's those things they remember. They remember the guy who ducked when he came in. They don't remember how high the door was.
It makes sense. Like if you were sitting at a table with a bunch of other people about to cold read something, and you got somebody that walks in and dips under you, regardless of whether or not you needed to, you're going to look like you needed to because they're looking up at you. Yeah. That whole thing
has been lost for me, and I've barely worked in. The last thing I did was I was a lead role in a Paramount film for Paramount Plus called Crawl Space with me and Henry Thomas.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so I have Paramount Plus. I actually got Paramount Plus to watch it. I
hope it's still on Paramount Plus, because
it's not that I'm fucking sick because my wife's sister sucks. But the point of the matter is, I got it specifically to watch it. I wanted to see it just because it's like I said, it's weird to me the number of things I know you from, and I know that sound like I would imagine you get that a lot. You have to.
Well, it's like with my wife. Like I always say to her, I've been in your life much longer than you think I have, because I know the shows that she watches. I know what she's watched. And even if the person didn't know that I didn't make a note, they didn't recognize me, there was nothing special about my performance, but I've been in your face, I mean, I worked with Jeremy Renner before anyone knew who Jeremy Renner was. I did an episode of Strange Luck on Fox in like 97. Oh, wow. And he was just another actor on that episode with me. And it's so weird when it's like, two no-name people work on something, and then all of a sudden they're one of the largest actors in the world. And you're like, I'm still going to the bottle depot here. What's going on?
You're okay. So the way you would look at that with Jeremy Renner is actually the way that I sort of look at you. It's not. It's only because, like I said, I mean, if you're again a genre fan, if you know the genre, if you like it, there's a bunch of fantasy, a bunch of sci-fi, and a bunch of horror that we watch. I grew up on a shitload of things that you were in, and I honestly going back and looking at it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember. I always noticed, right? It is crazy to me to realize how much you were in. I mean, I know I keep going back to it. I cannot stress enough how amazing it was to look at the credits.
Yeah. I mean, it just kept going and going.
Yeah, because it's like, I think my first thing, that commercial you mentioned, that was February 27th, 1990. That date sticks in my head because that was the very first thing I ever did as a paid actor. And I had just turned 20 on February 2nd. I had just moved to Vancouver in November of 89. So I moved out here on a whim. My friend and I were sitting in a donut shop one day, and he says, "What do you want to do today?" And I said, "I don't know." He says, "You want to go to Vancouver?" And, it's like I didn't even know where, really, truly didn't even know where what Vancouver was. It meant nothing to me. And I just knew that I was going to school, I was working, I was on student welfare because I'd been kicked out of the house and everything. And it's like, whatever, okay. So we just went back home, threw a bunch of our stuff in a bag. I never even told my roommates I was moving out. I just threw a bunch of stuff in a bag, and we went to the bus station and got a bus. And let me tell you, Canada is a big freaking country when you're on a bus. And to go from Toronto to the immediate West Coast, it's like it was 4.5 days on a bus.
Yeah.
And we get off the bus. Yeah. And that was back in the days where, daytime is used. This is okay. Here's my impression. This is me in the daytime. This is me in the nighttime. Daytime, nighttime, daytime, nighttime. Do that for 4.5 days.
There are a total of 8 repetitions for anybody that's paying attention.
And of course, the trip worked out.
5 hours on a bus.
Yeah. The trip worked out that we went to the prairies in the daytime. So it's like you're going through 3 provinces. You go to sleep for 8 hours. You wake up. You still think the bus is parked. It looks exactly the same. And then, of course, we go through the Rockies and everything, the beautiful, gigantic Rocky Mountains. And that's all at night. I don't remember any of that. I just remember that we got to the top of the mountains. There's like a pass before you go back over the other side. And there was like a truck stop, bus stop, whatever. And they stopped for a break to get something to eat. Well, I had fallen asleep on the bus. I didn't know that my ears had popped while I was sleeping. So all of a sudden, the guy that I'm with is tapping my shoulder. And what? And I open my eyes, and he's going, I don't know. And I thought I'd lost my mind. I don't know what's happening. So we walk into the restaurant, and now I'm standing there, and she goes, "Yes, what can I?" And my ears popped halfway through ordering. So in the middle of this truck stop, you just get tuna. So you realize you're screaming. And we get to Vancouver, and I'm like, okay, now what? And my buddy who had been here previously, he'd only ever been to like the poorest postal code in the country kind of neighborhood, it's like Skid Row kind of thing. That's the only part of Vancouver he knew. So that's where we ended up. And he said to me, well, now we got to find somewhere to stay. And he goes, well, I know a guy. He's one of these dump dive hotels right down there. And we walk in, and I said, "Hi, I'm looking for a job as a doorman," because, when you're my size, right, you could walk into any bar and say, "You need a doorman?" You need a bouncer?
Somebody can do math.
He said, you got a resume? And I go, yeah, I'm 6'6", 400 pounds. There's my resume. And so he said, the guy says to me, oh, I'm sorry. I don't need any doormen. And so we turn around to leave and he goes, I just need a DJ. And that's when the actor in me kicked in and it's like, DJ? Now, keep in mind, I've never been a DJ. I've never been in a DJ booth. I don't know what a DJ does. I've listened to the radio, but besides that, I know nothing. And I turned around, put the biggest smile on my face, and I just started naming every nightclub that I'd ever been to in Ontario or even knew of. And I go, well, aren't you fortunate? Because today I am here and I am the best DJ in Ontario, and you have won the lottery because I was head DJ at Checkers nightclub. I was head DJ at the Twist. I was head DJ at Stages. I just started naming bars. And granted, I'm only 19 years old, so I've only been going to bars basically for a couple months because in Canada, the drinking age is 19. But he bought it and said, oh, great. Oh, you come back at 6 o'clock. You meet the head DJ. His name's Ali. And we'll go from there. Great. So then we went off and got something to eat, had some breakfast, and I come back at 6 o'clock. And when we were there earlier, it was in the morning, so the bar was empty. So I didn't know that it was a strip club. So I come back. I come back at 6 o'clock. The place is full of smoke. The place is just cheering. Lights are flashing. And there's a girl on stage and she's half naked. And I come in and I go, hi, is Allie here? And they point to a hole in the wall because they didn't have a DJ booth. They basically had a hole in the wall behind the bar. And you walk sideways through this hole. It was basically like a utility closet, but then they had a square cut out of the wall behind the bar so that I could see the stage as I'm sitting in this utility closet next to the water heater with a basically there was a little mixer and a cassette player, but that my knowledge of what I was seeing, that came later. Because right now I know nothing. I'm in a utility closet with a water heater and I'm saying to the guy, hi, are you Ali? And he says, yeah, you must be the new DJ. And I said, yeah, I guess. He goes, great. He says, great. I'll see you at midnight, and leaves. And I'm standing there, dancers on stage, music's playing, and he's gone. And all of a sudden, the music, I notice, wait, music's not playing anymore. And now all I hear are the lights because the lights don't stop flicking, right? So all I hear through the whole club is,
oh,
because all the nightclub lights are going. And then I hear, and I look through the little hole in the wall, and there's a naked woman with her hands on her hips standing on the stage. She says, hello.
I'm just saying that poor dancer.
And so now I'm like, oh, shit. And I see, like, I'm talking out loud. And I see the little mixing board in front of me, and I see MIC, and I'm smart enough to figure out that stands for Mike. So I take the little mixing nozzle thing behind underneath it, and I push it all the way to the top. And through the whole nightclub, you hear, and it's just feedback through the whole club, and everyone like ducking for cover. And I pull the thing back, and I went, sorry, yeah. Okay, let's hear it. And I'm like, okay, I've been to a strip club. What do they say in a strip club? Try and remember what you say in a strip club. You're a DJ. Say something. And so I forget that the mic is on and they can hear me. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's hear it for, shit, what the fuck's her name? As I'm looking around for the piece of paper with a name or something. And from the stage, I hear, LaDonna. And she's still standing there with her hands on her hips. Okay, guys, let's hear it for LaDonna. And then all of a sudden, I'm thinking, I got through this, and I hear shower. And the whole crowd starts yelling for shower because up on stage they have like a champagne glass with like a water coming out of it, like a little fountain. And like, okay, sounds like you guys want a shower. So I'm looking, as I'm talking, I'm looking around. I see a switch that says shower. So I flick it and the water comes up in the glass. And I'm like, you need music. And where do I get the music? And I look over and I see a tape deck. And then I see next to MIC, it says tape 1. So I figure, okay. So I go, okay, guys, let's hear for LaDonna. She's going to get in the shower. Here we go, guys. and I press play on the tape, and I push up, because now I'm thinking, I'm hot shit here. I know what I'm doing. And I push up the feeder on here, and I press play there. And what I didn't realize is that the DJ had on that tape had earlier faded out on some dancer. So I go, okay, guys, here we go. And I press play, and the song goes, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Oh, shit. Okay. That was LaDonna. I hope you enjoyed that. And she's like got 1 foot in the air. She's like in the midst of stepping into the shower. And I'm already like telling her to leave. And like, oh, it was a night. And cut to midnight. Allie shows up, and I'm sitting there going, okay, guys, and remember, while you're feeding those hungry eyes, you can also quench those thirsty lips. We got highballs $4.75, and we got shooters $2.26. Now stick around, because coming up next is the luscious LaDonna. I'm like the best mic technique that anyone's ever heard of. I'm all over the place. And the end of the night comes, and keep in mind, this is like at the end of a 4.5 day bus trip. So I'm like wired as it is. And they were going to pay me $5 a shift, because I'm on probation. So I only get $5 a shift, and not an hour, a shift. And I get to have a pint of beer at the end of the night, and I get a room upstairs. So that's how they worked that out. So I figured, not bad. I got here in the morning. I've already worked a full shift. I have a place to stay. I have a job. Sure, I only got $5, but I got a job and I got a place to stay. I had my beer. I go upstairs, and I'm in my room, and I'm like, what is that smell? I'm looking around. I was like, what is that? It's like bad liver. What? It's like sour cream and onion. And then all of a sudden I remember, oh, wait. It's been like 5 days since I've taken a shower. Oh, God, it's me. And I was sitting in my room, and I can't stand this smell. So I realized then the rooms don't have bathrooms. There's only one bathroom per floor. And it's like a communal bathroom, like, it's like in a dormitory, because it's like one of those dumpy hotels downtown. So I go to the one bathroom, no shower. There's a bathtub. I go to turn it on. It's like, it's like liquid rust, right? So then I'm like, and I go down to the next bathroom. It's just toilets and urinals. I have to go down to the next floor. Oh, they got a bathtub, but there's somebody passed out in it, and apparently they puked all over themselves, and I'm not touching that. So, oh well. I start going up the stairs back to my bedroom, stepping on this one woman girl. It looked like she had been touching herself and was on heroin and had passed out on the stairwell. And that was my introduction to the big city, as I'm stepping over her to get back up to my room. And I get up to my room, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I just want to take a shower. And all of a sudden my brain goes, shower.
Oh, no.
Shower. I'm like, shower.
Arguably.
Hey, I know where there's a shower. And hey, somebody gave me the keys to the bar. So I go back to my room. I grab the keys to the bar. It's like 3:30 in the morning. Everybody's gone. I go back down to the bar. I open the door. I go in the bar. I know where the switch is. Now I know to turn the bar you have to turn the power on. To turn the power on, that means all the bar lights. So now all the stripper lights are on. So it's like the whole bar is like red, green, green, blue, red, green, blue, 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 green. And I turn the shower on and looking around. I'm okay, there's nobody in here. Take off all my clothes. I get up on the stage, and I'm like turning the water on. And I'm standing next to the champagne glass, and I'm like getting there, and I get into the champagne glass, and I'm washing myself, and I'm, oh God, and the lights are all going, and I'm on there taking a shower and everything. All of a sudden I hear like a pail go, ba-dum, da-dum, da-dum. And I turn. Just then there's an old East Indian janitor standing there, and he goes, oh God, please tell me you're not the feature next week. And that was my introduction to Vancouver. And within a month, I'm shooting a commercial. So that's
I'm honest with you. At no point in that story did I expect the next sentence to pop up.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like I thought I'd keep going, and then it just kept. And it's still,
These are the stories that make us.
This has been a wonderful evening. I am thrilled that we got to talk to you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I tend to ramble, and I said it was going to go all over the place.
Encouraged, completely encouraged. I mean, this is literally one of the most entertaining conversations that we have had with a guest on this show. There are other questions I would love to ask. We are unfortunately at our time limit for what we're going to upload and edit.
Well, but we've only touched on a quarter of my resume, and
would you like to come back? Because seriously, I have questions. There's so many different things I wanted to ask you about this. Honestly, I did not expect that story. I am so happy that I got to hear that. It's like, it was, I don't even know how to describe it. That was an epic. It was great.
It made the moment.
It turned out wonderful.
You think you're going for a bus ride? Next thing you know, you're standing in a champagne glass.
Pay off of some poor little East Indian dude just being like, no. It's just a wonderful moment.
I will be 80 years old, and I'll still have the image of that guy's look on his face with the bucket on the ground.
I might be 80 and I'll remember the story. That is a like memoir level.
In 2013. I did a one-man show at the Vancouver Fringe Festival, and that was played out it was called The Rockstar in Me, and it was basically describing what meatloaf meant to me in my life, and I did a whole play on that, so we'll have to touch on that.
That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you concerning the shirt that you were wearing in fucking
the A-Team.
Yes. Like that was like the shirt. I was like, did you bring that from home? Because it looked like you brought it from home.
No, they actually had to get that licensed, and honest to God, because I had worked with Joe Carnahan on Smoking Aces as one of the Tremor brothers.
I also wanted to ask you about
Smoking Aces too. So I don't know if the story of what Meatloaf and means to me in my life, and if that came across him, or that he just wanted my character to be wearing that. But he told me when I got the part and he offered me the part. So that's always nice when you get offered a role from the director. You don't have to audition for anything. Yeah. But he told me that you're going to be wearing a Meatloaf shirt, and I was giddy. And then to find out that they had to license the exact Bat Out of Hell T-shirt that I'm wearing. So no, that was all 20th Century Fox's idea, but I got to keep the shirts afterwards.
Awesome.
And next time, I'll tell you how he fits into my life. And
I think that would be absolutely wonderful. I mean, like, legitimately, you should come back. There are more questions. I'm thrilled that you made time to do this tonight. Craig, on, I guess, behalf of you and myself, thank you so very, very much, Ernst. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking, and we will definitely see you again, because this was great.
Okay. Well, have fun. See you later. Bye-bye.
Airlandia, the air raiders command post, prepares for the tyrant's Dragonwind attack.
Hit him with everything we've got! Thunderclaw, launch! Remote missile, flare! Hold on to your helmets, men!
Launch glider! Fire! Good shot! Launch claw! Launch storm dagger! Their army's at the command post! Front fly!
Air raiders command post and claw and tyrant's Dragonwind, each complete with figures.
Sega challenges you with the ultimate video game, the Sega Master System.
Hang on!
With more accurate control, more detailed graphics, more levels of play.
Awesome!
The Sega Master System comes with power-based 2 control pads, light phaser, and 2 great video games, Hang On and Safari Hunt.
Gotcha!
And with other games like Rambo, Outrun, and Choplifter, the excitement never stops. The Sega Master System. The challenge will always be there.